Sorry, once again, my internet is atrocious this morning. Okay. Sorry, once again. So my question is, you've done everything we've said, you've done interest analysis, you try to explain to the client the advantages and the advantages, and the client insists, this is how I want you to execute this assignment. What are your options? What are your options? Hello, class.
Oh.
Mr. Lajide, you want to try?
Well,
Vivian,
I'm still
take it
thinking of what to
or
say.
leave it. Vivian says, take it or leave it. Anyone else? Vivian says, take it or leave it. Anyone else? Anyone else? Please stop, come back to me. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on.
Well, I just think we have to be a bit more diplomatic and come through another route and try to explain to the client, not frontally, but indirectly, bringing up implications of insisting on his own direction, and making the client to understand some of the shortcomings of the option they are trying to insist on, you know. So I think it has to be approached in another manner such that you're able to convince the client eventually that, to follow your line of approach to
But
solving the problem.
the client has a budget, $1,000. Your approach will probably cost them $2,000, $2,500. How do you convince them? If they say, no, all we are spending is $1,000, what can you do? Vivian is correct, actually. You don't have to take every assignment.
Yeah.
You don't have to take every assignment. Now, when you start out, the danger is this. You want to take every assignment. That's the reality. You're just starting out. You got bills to pay. So you don't have the flexibility of saying or picking and choose, especially when you're just starting out. When you've had 10 years, 7 years, 8 years, you have lots of clients, you have that flexibility of picking and choosing. But when you are starting out, you may not be able to pick and choose. But at the same time, you don't want to compromise your integrity as a consultant. So you can walk away. I say to people, nobody's forcing you to do the assignment. If the assignment goes against your ethics, if there are going to be compromises, please, your own reputation is at risk. You can walk away when you know that $1,000 will not do this assignment. Don't be so desperate as to say you take the assignment when you know that you will not deliver a good job. If at the end of the assignment you don't deliver a good job because the client has compromised, the client will still blame you for doing a poor job. Never mind the fact that it's the client that refused to listen to your advice. Please, this is very important in consulting. You don't have to take every assignment, number one. Number two, don't be so desperate as to work with a compromised client. It can affect your reputation down the line. I can give you several examples. There was a government we had in Nigeria around about 2015, just before 2015. They made a claim that, their policies had created 1.6 million jobs. And so they called a couple of consultants together and said, look, we need you to validate this, our claim, that we have created 1.6 million jobs. Now, we were one of the consultants that were called, and then we explained our processes to them, that what we will do is this. We will create a register that will show all these 1.6 million jobs. Maybe you have created 1.6 million jobs. No problem. Let's do the assignments. We will gather this. So this data, this registry, anybody can pick a name. Peter Bimpe, his number is there. Anybody can call Peter Bimpe. Are you a beneficiary of this and this project? Do you know what they said? They said, no. We don't want that. And for me, that was transparency. We don't want that. Just come up with 1.6 million names. Ladies and gentlemen, we walk away. Because there's no way you can come up with, we can come up with 1.6 million names, but we cannot validate it. So we walked away because our reputation is at stake. Brilliant job, a lot of money, but be guided as consultants. Do not compromise your integrity. You don't have to do every assignment, okay? When we start out, there's a danger of, man, I can't afford to not take any assignments. Now, the midway, I'm going to give you the midway. The compromise you can make is this. If you are going to take any assignments that the client is refusing to take your instructions, then in your terms of engagement, let there be a caveat. Let there be a caveat, a line statement or a caveat that certain advisory processes have been advanced for this project, but the client has chosen to go down this particular route. That is the caveat that you must have in your terms of engagement. So if in future the client turns around and says, oh, it is Peter's incompetency, Peter, is your fault, you have that document to back yourself up. Okay? Simply telling others that, well, we try to advise to the clients, we try to tell them that this is what they should do, and they refused. And then you go ahead without any document or any caveats in the terms of engagement. There's no way you can absorb yourself of responsibility as a consultant. Okay? So these are the things you find on the field that we've got to be careful about. Any question, please? Any question before we move ahead? Any question or questions? Any question, please? We are still on definition of consulting. Any question, please? Any comments? Okay. So let me summarize this. So consulting is the practice of helping organizations. We want to move the organization from where they are to where they ought to be or where they want to be. When I made that definition, there's a distinct difference between where they want to be. Where a client wants to be can be aspirational. This is where we are going. You see this in their strategy document and all of that. This is our plan in the industry. We want to become number one. We want to be this, we want to be that. It's aspirational. This is where we want to be. So they have a plan for it. So that one is intentional, is aspirational from the company. Now, this is where we ought to be, could be a situation whereby the clients find themselves in a position whereby they need to be more competitive. They ought to be, maybe they need to be making $2,000, they're making $1,000, and it's affecting their business. So it's a forced circumstances. Where we want to be is aspirational. Where we ought to be could be they are being forced by the market to be where they want to be. So there are two different things and two different approaches. So that's the first thing. Then the next thing is, how did you get to where you are? That is the root cause analysis. And one of the reasons why we do that is so that you don't give the patient the wrong medication. Because if you give the patient the wrong medication, it could even prove more, put the patient in a worse state. Have you ever been to the doctors and you say to the doctor, I have an headache, and straight away the doctor prescribes for you? Before they prescribe any medication, the doctor asks questions. The doctor asks what? Questions before they prescribe any medication. So as consultants, we are like doctors to businesses. So when a business is complaining about a problem, we need to find out the root cause of that problem before we know the right medication. Simply because if you prescribe the wrong medication, it may not solve the problem. And after your exit, trust me, the clients will blame you and say, Peter Bimpe did not solve my problem. This consultant did not solve my problem. I paid so and so money, they didn't solve the problem. Never mind the fact that they didn't listen to you. Okay? Any question, please? So, any question, please, before I move on? Any question, please? Any question? So consulting is the practice of helping organizations. It could be to improve performances. It could be to solve a problem. It could be to attain a new goal. And how do we do that? By the analysis of problems and the development of plans for improvements. So 3 things. Understand what they need, understand how they got there, and then providing solutions, okay? And then providing solutions. You may want to expand that definition further. Please, I'm taking my time on definition. Remember what I said. If you really understand the definition of consulting, you would understand the scope of what you can do in consulting. So that's why I'm taking my time in this definition. So I'm expanding the definition a bit further. Initially, said consulting is the practice of helping organizations. The truth of the matter is this: when you start out, it is friends, it is families that you might start with. And that's why I've included individuals. So you may not start out and start consulting for organizations or big companies. Chances are it will be friends and family. Oh, I have retired, oh, I have opened a consultancy, oh. If you have work, oh, it's likely to be individuals, friends, and families. Now, the same diligence you would approach with organizations, you must approach with individuals. The same diligence you do with organizations or you were doing in your organization when you are working must be brought to individuals, especially friends and family. Most people make the mistake of being less strict with their documentation, with their agreements when it comes to friends and family. It is when there are problems in this contractual relationship that I realize that some family are not family. So be very careful. Don't say because they are friends and family, you're not so strict, you don't do contracts, you don't do agreements. That's one mistake most new consultants make. So please have an agreement, have a contract, the same that you have an organization, have it with friends and families. Very critical. Then number 2, when we say improve performances, we are not just looking at present performances. I mentioned that we're not looking at present performances. We also look at the background. That's the due diligence. And then thirdly, this present problem I'm trying to solve. Before I can solve it, I need to look back. How did we get there? We've mentioned that. But then much more. The solutions I'm giving them now, how sustainable will it be in the future? So I have introduced another dimension to it. So they call us about the present problem. But you cannot solve the present problem without taking a step back. That's your due diligence, that's your root cause. So effectively, we look at, to solve the present problem, we need to look at the past. How did we get there? We've established that. But then, beyond solving the present problem, you now need to ensure that the present problem does not repeat itself in the future. That is called sustainability. So any solution, anything that we implement for our clients must be sustainable. So you are not just concerned about solving the problem now, you are concerned that will it be sustainable in the future? So you're at the same time not just looking at what would make the solution work now, you're also looking at what other things that might be done in the future to make sure that your solution is sustainable. Okay? So you are not just analyzing present problems, you're analyzing future problems. Now, somebody says to me, but they're only paying me to look at the present problem. That will make you a good consultant. You want to become a great consultant, then you are focusing on not just the present, what can go wrong now, but what can go wrong in the future. And your solutions that can make your solutions sustainable. A great consultant is not just looking at existing problems, but also looking at what may happen in the future. Question is, do you want to be a good consultant or a great consultant? Yeah. And then finally, development and execution of plans for successful improvement. Because you can develop and execute plans, whether it's successful or not, but can you see successful improvement? So you are not just coming up with plans, but you want plans that will work. Okay? So that's the summary of it. Consulting is the practice of helping individuals and organizations to improve their present and future performances, operating primarily through the analysis of existing and potential problems and the development and execution for improvements. Okay? That's our definition. That is our definition. And there are several definitions you can pick up, but I'm going somewhere now that you can pick up. Okay? Let's ask some questions on the definition. Are we clear on the definition? Are we clear? Are we clear? Any questions, please? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions, please? Okay. It's very straightforward. Yeah, thank you. So now, let me say this. Consulting is not until you have solved the problem. Consulting, so what's this man talking about? He just told us now that consulting definition is about development and successful execution of plans for successful improvement. And in the next breath, he's saying consulting is not execution. Who can help me out? Have I confused you?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, I was going to ask a question, but my mute was on. I can see that at a point, I want to understand where consulting ends and then project management starts, because somebody has to implement whatever you recommended. If you are supposed to implement what has been recommended, is this still consulting or it goes into another territory?
When we start the, okay, hold on, please. When it comes to implementation, yeah?
Yeah.
When it comes to implementation, that is when we now use project management to implement, yeah? Do you understand that? We use project management is a method, is a methodology. So we adopt that methodology when it comes to implementing the plan or the solution that we are giving the clients. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right, Vivian. Vivian, you wanted to. I'm asking somebody to. Vivian. Okay, Vivian.
Yes, I raised my hand because I had a different perspective. A case where a solution that has been derived at, for instance, the organization you are supporting does not have the expertise to implement. What happens?
Do they want to implement? Vivian.
For instance,
do they want to implement?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm asking you.
Yes, they want to implement, but
hello.
They want to implement, but they do not have the technical know-how on how to implement.
So what do you think we should do as a consultant?
You will give advisory services in terms of methodologies of implementation.
Okay, we'll come to that. Now, the truth of the matter is this, and that's why I said consulting is not until you have implemented that you have carried out consultancy. Many people associate, I have to solve the problem, which is implementation, with consulting. No. Consulting is in 3 parts, and they are distinctly different from each other. Offering advice to a client on how they got to where they are, which is part of the consulting process. Giving solutions to clients in terms of what they can do to solve the problem is part of the consulting process. Implementing those solutions is part of the consulting process. But listen and listen carefully. Not all clients want to implement. Some may simply want you to advise them on how they got to where they are.
Okay.
And that is what we call advisory in consulting. Please listen carefully. Don't go into consulting thinking every client that comes to you wants you to solve the problem. It is the stage, or if you like, end stage in the consulting process. So there's consulting advisory, there's solutioning, there's implementation. There are 3 different stages. So a client may simply want advisory. Beyond advisory, they may want solutions. Beyond solutions, they may want implementation of the solution. So it's critical as a consultant to find out precisely what the client wants or needs. Don't assume, never assume for a client. Because if you assume wrongly, you're just going to waste your time. You've put your mind on something else and you're not going to get paid for it. So it sounds so mundane. In fact, there's a form that I'm going to share with you where you capture precisely what the client wants. So you don't overbrief. In Nigeria, we call it over syllabus. You don't go over and offer the client what the client does not need. Most new consultants fall into this problem. In fact, it's so bad that some consultants, all the client wants is advisory, and then the client has gone into giving them solutions, even how they will implement it. And so you send it to them and you're calling them, when are we going to implement this? Who told you they want to implement? They just want advice. And you give them the advice and then realize that they're not paying you. So most clients might do that. Is it a good thing? No. You give them the advice, they're not paying for it, but you're giving them more than they need. Secondly, some clients may want a set of advice from one client and a set of solutions from another client, and another client to implement. It costs them more, but they prefer that. It costs them cheaper if one client does the advice, solution, and execution. But some clients may want 3 distinct consultants to do this. So it's very critical to validate what the client wants. Don't assume to know. Ask. very critical. Ask what the client wants. And the simple statement in that form is, what is your objective? We call it client's needs assessment. Client's needs assessment. We'll give you the questionnaire. Client's needs assessment. Okay? And it can be a client engagement session whereby you spend time with the client to clarify their needs, you engage the clients back and forth so that you are specific, you understand what the client is, and then you can provide a solution in terms of, okay, this is what you need, this is our solution. Never assume to know what the client wants. Always ask, okay? Always ask the client, always validate it. And we validate it what we call a client engagement session. Any question, please? I want us to take a short break. Any question? Any question? Any questions, please? Any question? Joseph, any question? Any question? Kofi, Mr. Deoti, Babajide, Mohammed?
No, sir, no, sir.
Nana, Jennifer,
No, sir.
Mr. Ahmed. Ahmed, are you in now? Ahmed is in now. Okay. Any question, Peter? No question. Right. Let's take a 10 minutes break. And trust me, in that 10 minutes, I will start. Please, let's be back in 10 minutes. Get some water, stretch your legs. We have another 1 hour to go. We'll finish the next 1 hour, but let's take 10 minutes time out. Is that okay? 10 minutes,
Yeah,
please.
that's okay.
All right, let's stretch our legs, please. Let's stretch our legs. We've been sitting for the past 2 hours. So I'll be back in 10 minutes. Any question, please? So please, consulting is not just implementing. You could offer advisory service on its own as a standalone. You could offer, of course, if you offer solution, you need to have covered advisory. And if you're implementing, you are covering all three. So the more you go along this line, the more you charge. Okay? The more you charge. Any questions, please? Any question? Anything requiring clarification? Any question? Any question, please? Let me see what else we have. Yes. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Any question, please?
Sorry. I just wanted to find out. After playing the advisory role, and you stop there, I'm sure the applicable charge applies. If we now have to go into solutions, will there be another applicable charge for that?
Who can answer that?
As well as implementing.
Who can answer that? Thank you, yes, sir. Who can answer that? Anybody in the class?
I think advising, you don't have to charge advising. Implementing and solution, you can charge.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else, please?
Advising should be charged. I think advising should be charged because it's the same thing you are doing. It's an intellectual property. You can't just give it out like that.
Good. Thank you, Peter. There are charges for all levels. There are charges of Mr. Olajide. When you do advisory, and I get where Joseph is coming from. And you need to be very careful. Some clients may not want to pay for the advisory. They think it's advisory, but it's a work that you do because you have to carry out your root cause analysis. So you spend time doing it, carrying out the root cause analysis. You spend time doing it. So who pays for that time that you do it? At the same time, some people do advisory as pro bono. They don't charge, okay? So it's entirely up to you, but it is a chargeable service. It's a chargeable. So when you have done advisory, it's especially chargeable. Let me put it this way. It's especially chargeable when the client says all they want is advisory. Even though it sounds advisory, let me give you a free advice. If the client says all they want is advisory, you charge for it. The instances where we may not charge for advisory is if the client says he wants the full package implementation. Okay? So you don't charge a loan for each phase. If the client says, I want to solve this problem. So it all depends on what the client says they want. If the client says to you, I want to know why we are where we are, that is advisory. You charge for it. That's all there's asked for. If the client says, I want solutions, I want you to come up with solutions to solve this problem. Of course, you got to do the activities of the advisory before you come up with solution. So you are charging for solution to give this client solution, but your process includes advice, what you will have done for advisory. So you charge for that. So if the client says, I want a solution, you can't just come up with a solution without analysis. And it's analysis, root cause analysis, that leads to advisory, if that's all you are doing. So depending on the client's instruction, client says, I want to understand how we got to where we are. That is advisory. Don't go now giving clients solution. All they want to know is, how did we get here? Root cause analysis. This is what you did wrong. This is what you did wrong. This is what you did wrong. They have not asked you to tell them how to get out of this problem. That is the realms of solutioning. Many consultants make that mistake. All the client has asked you for is, how did you get here? And you assume that they want solution and they want to solve the problem. So like I said, excuse me, some clients just want you to advise them how they got to where they are. Some might say to you, we want solution to this problem. Some might say to you, solve the problem. Excuse me. Okay, so that's why you need to clarify precisely what the client wants. Don't assume. Does that make sense? So yes, in answer to your question, Mr. Olajide, if all the client has asked for is advise us, how do we get to where we are? And then you give them the advice, and they come back and say, you have to come up with and they come back and say, so how do we get out of this situation? What can we do? Then they're looking for solutioning and implementation, because they don't just want to understand how they got there. They just don't want you to give a solution. They want to get out of the situation. They want to do it. Does it make sense?
Yes. Thank you, sir.
So don't leave money on the table. Many consultants leave money on the table. You think they want to do execution. No, it's not all the time that the clients, you'll be shocked. It's not all the time the clients wants to solve the problem. And it may well be they want to understand the problem, then come back to the problem, or ask somebody else to solve the problem. Okay? So don't always attach solving the problem to every assignment. Find out whether they simply need advice on where they are, and then find the solution. Okay? Excuse me. Okay, any question, please? Any question, please? Any question, please? Any question, please?
Can I be heard?
All right. Okay.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
We can hear you, sir, Peter.
I've been trying to unmute several events. Okay. I just wanted to find out whether, in all humility, after providing the advice and the client comes back to you for solution, and after that, it's asking for implementation. For one reason or the other, if you decide that you cannot do the implementation because you do not have what it takes to implement, I'm sure you can still go ahead and say, this is not an area, and you leave it at the solution. Is that okay?
Sorry, I didn't hear that properly.
Can the consultant at the point of solutioning say, this is where I end my service? I cannot do an implementation service with you. Probably just because it doesn't have what it takes to drive the implementation.
Well, you can introduce, excuse me, you can introduce another client to do the implementation. Of course, there are some consultancies who don't do implementation. They just tell you the best they can do is they analyze the root cause, which is advisory. And some don't even go beyond advisory. They just analyze the root cause. They don't even go into the realms of solution. So it's not a problem if you can't provide implementation. Yeah. The best you can do is suggest those who can provide implementation if you cannot do it. Yeah. So it's not a problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, another question, please. Any other question, please? Any other question, please? Any other question, please? Any other question, please? Okay. All right, let me summarize what we've looked at today. Yeah. Just checking the group chat. Can you specialize in any of these areas? There are charges for all levels. Yes, as I said, Peter, you can just be a consultant that focuses on providing advice to. You can be a consultant, but let me suggest this. It's best to be able to do all three. Otherwise, you might be losing business. So, especially if it's your area of competence, you must ideally be able to do all three: provide advice, provide solution, and implement. Otherwise, you'll be leaving money on the table. Some clients, if clients are looking at implementation and then you are saying to them that you can't implement, they probably will walk away. Okay? So they will probably walk away, okay, if you cannot provide an end-to-end consulting solution. But if you can't, you can't. But it's always best to be able to provide an end-to-end solution for a client. Okay, any questions, please? Okay. I'm not getting any questions. All right, let me summarize what we have looked at today. Let's summarize what we have looked at, and then we'll look at what our learning takeaways. Okay, I want to summarize what we have looked at. Essentially, we looked at the definition, yeah, and I expanded the definition that consulting is about helping, whether it's individuals, which are likely to be family members, friends, and organizations. And one of the key things I did mention is don't leave a client's worse off. Never leave a client worse off. A client has come to us for one of three reasons. They want to improve what they are doing, they want to solve a problem, they want to achieve a goal. Yeah, they want to improve performance, solve a problem, or do something new. And so when they engage us, even though our assignment is about the present, but you cannot just solve the present without looking at where they came from, how they came to, or how they got to where they are. And then any solution you are presenting must be sustainable because you got to bear the future in mind. And then the other thing again is you analyze not just what is the problem, but what might go wrong in the future. It's called sustainability consulting. So any solution that you offer. I once did an assignment for UBA, the bank. Very lovely assignments. Oh, a lot of money we made. And the following year, we went to them and said, let's do it again. They said, no, it was recruitment. The people that you recruited for us last year, all of them, I was into diaspora recruitment, international recruitment. The people that you recruited for us last year, all of them have gone back. Now, I've done my recruitment. The candidates have resumed. I have moved on. You have paid me. But the fact that they did not stay, most of them did not stay, which was a function of internal mechanisms, I got blamed. In the sense that when I went back the following year to do the same assignments, they said, no, we're not doing. The people that you brought last year, all of them have gone back. But I learned one valuable lesson. Every assignment you do, you must find a way to make it sustainable. So I wasn't just concerned about solving the problem or implementing the solution. I was now concerned about making it much more sustainable. In fact, let me break it down. So I brought in people for UBA, and after 6-7 months, I brought in a lot of them, spent a lot of money. They relocated back to where they came from for many reasons internally. So when I went back to UBA the following year to do, they said, no, the people that you brought had gone back. But I now realized that when you bring in people from the diaspora, there are certain things they need to survive when you bring them back in country. Accommodation, children's school, things like that. Now, you can say to me as a consultant, what is my business with accommodation? What is children's school? But we set up a subsidiary to help people that we brought in to settle down comfortably. So we set up a relocation company because we realized that once they hit the ground running as employees of the bank, they don't have the time to relocate. And because they didn't have the time, they didn't have the time to settle. Now, because they didn't have time to settle, it was affecting their work. And the stress of working and trying to live accommodation, trying to sort out their school children was just too much. They said, look, I don't need this stress. They went back. So what did we do? We set up a relocation service, a new service. Beyond just bringing people, we set up a new service. Because we realized that if we don't provide that service, or nobody provides that service, it will keep affecting the people we bring. So we set up that service to help ourselves, to help our core business. So we set up a relocation company to help people that we bring in from the diaspora for these banks. And when we brought in that company, the attrition rate, people going back, dropped almost 100%. And so we were able to go back to our clients and say, look, not only do we bring in people, we also help them to settle down, because we realized that if they're not well settled, they could leave. that is sustainability in your solution. So you're not just looking at the present, you're looking at how to sustain your present intervention or solution. Okay? So I said to you, a good consultant is focused about solving the problem now. A great consultant is about ensuring that anything that may go wrong in the future is taken care of. A great consultant is concerned about how sustainable is the solution I am providing now into the future or for the future, how sustainable, yeah? So we don't just look at the present problem. Yes, they are paying for the present problem, but you can't just jump and try and solve the present problem. Don't. To solve the present problem, you need to understand where they're coming from. And to make the present problem solution sustainable, you need to think about solutions that will last into the future, solutions that are sustainable. Any question, please? Any question? There are different. I'm going to give you this slides today, so you have the slides. And then I want to conclude there. We concluded by saying consulting is not until you have solved the problem. You'll be shocked that it is not all clients, when they come to you, their motive is not to solve the problem. It may well be to simply understand how we arrived at this problem in the first place. Yeah. So clarity in what the client's objective is very critical. Clarity is very critical. So two things I'm going to do as well. There's a form that we use. We call it client engagement phase. We use that at the client engagement phase where we get clarity about what the client wants. Let me say this and I'll use it to conclude. Don't fall into the trap of instantly quoting for a client. Clients will call you and say, Mr. Deoti, this and this and this, how much is it likely to cost? It's a trap. Don't fall into it. Never fall into it. Oh, it's going to cost you $1,000. When you now do your diligence, you do your client engagement, you now realize it's $1,500. Try charging them $1,500, you might lose that assignment. Because the figure they have in mind is that $1,000 that you give them. So don't be pressured to give a client a cost before you've done your due diligence. Then secondly, it is very unprofessional to go back to the client and say, well, we charged you $1,000, but actually it couldn't be $1,500. No, don't do that. So there are ways of managing that. And one of the key ways of managing that is you have a client engagement session where you want clarity about precisely what the client wants. I'll tell you this. When we do consulting, there's what we call the client's DNA. When we're trying to analyze the needs, client's DNA. Client's DNA stands for client has a desire, clients have needs, and then clients have aspirations, DNA. D for desire, N for needs, A for aspirations. I want to buy a new car. Do I need a Mercedes-Benz or a basic car that can fulfill my function? So you need to understand the difference between needs and aspiration. Oh, I want to fly a plane. I don't mind a private jet. That's an aspiration. It's not a need. So when you're dealing with clients, you really want to understand what their needs are. Their needs are present. Their aspirations are for the future. So when you are doing the client's DNA, client's D stands for desire. What would be nice to have? We call it a nice to have. That's desire. The need is what they need precisely now. The A stands for aspiration, what they would like to have in the future. Please don't base your proposal on desire or aspiration. Base your solution or your proposal on the client's present needs, as well as incorporating the future needs, but focus largely on the present needs. Okay? So that's today. Normally what I do in my training is I try and get some feedback. When I ask questions, is a way of getting feedback. And if I don't get feedback, I'll ask you to tell me what you're learning outcome is. So, Joseph, what's your learning takeaway for today? What have you taken away?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I have learned something very good today because I've been dealing with a client. Presently, I'm doing some work for a client. Every time he comes in and changes his mind to do some changes in the construction, so I always accepted it. Always say, okay, I agree, I will do it. I agree, I will do it. But from today, I think I will be very harsh now.
No, you don't have to say no. But there's what we call change control in project management. Because if you do changes and you always agree to it, it costs you time and money. And if you don't cost it very well, you'll be out of pocket. You realize that you do so many changes, you are not charging very well for it. So there's change.
No, he pays for it. He pays for it. Any changes, he pays for the changes. Like if I'm breaking the blocks, if I'm breaking the wall, I make sure he pays for everything and repay the workers. And you see, but normally I do it free on my own now as a project manager. And you see, I don't charge for him a double charge. I already gave him a single charge at the beginning.
Exactly.
But what I've learned today, there should always be a plus and minus, extra charges in such cases, because today the client, they are very, very smart. They try to minimize the cost as much they can.
And make changes along the way. And at the end of the day,
yes,
we are doing more work than we are paid for. Fantastic.
Thank you. Yes, you see, like I charge him maybe $2,000-$3,000 for the concept we are doing. He come and change again. All he knows that he have already paid me my money, but I'm going back and doing the work again.
Yeah.
He's not paying for the material. He's paying for the material. I'm not paying for nothing again. You see?
All right.
So I think I have learned something very good today. In the contract, there should be something like stipulation saying that if there's any changes, he should be responsible to repay, the charges again. The supervision charges.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, fantastic. Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Olajide. Mr. Olajide, what's your learning takeaway today? What's that one thing that jumped at you? What's your learning takeaway, sir?
Okay. One thing I've learned today is I need to be a lot meticulous in dealing with my clients. And I have to understand the issues at stake and what to do. I am the type of person that might go overboard, but I am learning now that I need to be, I need to apply necessary breaks and be a lot more cautious in dealing with clients, especially when one is engaged to consult for them, so that you don't go beyond what they would normally require, and you have to be able to discern and understand what the real issue is, what the real need is, so that just as you put it, one does not give in to their aspiration or just their desire, but understanding the needs. I think for me, this has made a lot of useful learning. And I think going forward and looking ahead, because I am looking at, starting a consultancy in dealing with human problems and all that. I think that's, for me, is a learning I will have to put in my mind in dealing with clients.
Okay, thank you. Client engagement. All right, thank you very much, sir. Let's go to Kofi. Kofi, are you there? What's your learning?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, my take home today has been that consultancy is not trying to start from advisory right down to execution, but consultancy has phases from advisory, solutions and executions, and you need to be very careful, get clarity from the client, what he actually needs from you, whether it's advisory, or whether he's seeking solutions or he wants you to execute, so that you can provide exactly what the client wants. And I've also learned that it is not compulsory for you to have all the expertise in all the three areas of consultant, being the advisory, solutions, and execution. So if you don't have expertise in the execution, you might advise the client to look for another consultant who has expertise in executing that problem than to take it on when you are sure you cannot actually execute the problem. Thank you.
But like I said, be careful. If you are saying to the clients that, you see, nowadays, clients want someone that can work end to end. Because
Okay.
it costs money to have 3 different clients work on a project.
Okay.
They're trying to save money, so they want a consultant that can work end to end. So even though you can break down consultancy assignments into 3, the reason why I broke it down into 3 is not so that you specialize in one area. That would be doing yourself a lot of injustice. Because from the onset, if you are saying to the client, all I can do is give you advice, they might, and they want to implement, they might go for somebody that can not only advise, can give solution, and can implement. So let me be very clear about that. So, but the reason why I brought that up is so that you don't think until you have solved the problem that's consultancy. Many people, many consultants leave money on the table thinking, I'm not a consultant until I've solved the problem. No. Just giving advice is consultancy. Providing solution is consultancy. In any case, if you're a master in your subject area, you should be able to do all 3. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So if you're a project manager who is into construction, and somebody calls you and says, look, I need to put up a 5-bedroom house in this area. Please advise me on how, maybe it's a hilly area. It's a hilly area. There's a lot of hills. And he wants to put up a house. And he comes to you as a project manager. You're not going to say to him, I can only advise you on what you can do on this hilly area. I may not be able to give you a solution. If you want to build it, I may not be able to build it for you. Okay, they will go to somebody that can do all 3. Do you understand? So don't put yourself at a disadvantage. There's no advantage in specializing in any of these 3. There's no advantage. But you must be competent enough to do any of the 3. That's my point. It's not for you to now say, I only do advise you, I only do solution. Sure, matter is the only one that you can say you want to specialize in is advisory, because some consultants do. But by the time you start doing solutions, that means you can do advisory, because there's no way you can arrive at solutions without advisory. So by the time you are doing implementation, that means you can do the 3. So the best option is to be able to deliver the full consulting life cycle for a client. Okay? All right. Let's go to Mohammed. Mohammed Al-Hassan, what's your takeaway today? Mohammed, what's your takeaway, please? Mohammed?
I've actually learned a lot. It's just a build up on a few things that I already know. So I'll say all that you've already discussed and what my colleagues said is same. And then most especially when you mentioned the DNA, the need. Currently, we are about, we have a consultancy firm, but we are just starting. And then I see that we're about going to do jack of all trades. But from what you've advised us today, I think we'll be more careful to rather go for the need and don't go and do what they didn't send us to do. Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome, sir. All right, let's go to Peter. Peter Bimpe. Peter.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I think it's been an insightful session. My takeout is also the need assessment that has to be done. I am not fully into consultancy, but I think informally some of these things do come up. And I believe that the way you are breaking it down and making sure that you not only think that if you specialize, it's more profitable, but an end-to-end one is one that would really put money on your table. The biggest one for me is the sustainability part.
Yeah.
Because I was also involved in an exercise where similar recruitment of field agents, and over a shorter period, we realized that the attrition rate was so high, and the client thought we didn't do a good job. But from what you have said, then it meant that we failed to put in a sustainability plan to ensure that these people we're bringing on board will live longer to make an impact for the business. So for me, it's a very good session that we've had today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Nana.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What I'm taking off today, and then at the end I have a question. Okay. What I'm taking off today is that it's very, very important to understand exactly what the client requires of you as a consultant. And as much as possible, it must be written in the form of an agreement.
Yeah.
Clearly stating what they are expecting from you and what you are also supposed to, or what you can also give. Yeah. And then also whatever solution you provide for the client, you must set it up in such a way that the results will show for a long time. I mean, it will be like as soon as you are off the project, everything fizzles out. Yeah. That is what I've taken of this for today. My question is, when we talk about having an agreement written out, is there any standard format that is there that we use, or it's situation to situation?
Well, there's a standard format, but then situation to situation variances must be built into that contract. In fact, my advice with you is this: never do a contract by yourself. Yeah. And then always avoid the contract that is sent to you from the client. You know, when clients do that, they put in some terms that favors them. But let me put it this way: anybody that writes a contract writes it to favor them. So if you are doing consulting and then it is the client that's giving you a consultant, check it very well. Get a lawyer to check it. They might have put some things that will favor them. So let every big contract be an original. Don't just, you have a template that you are using for every assignment. No. No two assignments are the same. Yeah, no two assignments. They might be similar, but no two assignments are the same. So why then do you have a singular contract across board? So be careful that you don't have a standard contract. You can have a standard contract, but for every assignment, make sure the nuances, the peculiarities of that assignment is captured in your standard contract. Yeah. So there is a standard contract. We will give you a template, but no two assignments are the same. For instance, duration will be different. What goes in the contract might be different. So if you're using a standard contract, it may not capture all of that, and it puts you at a disadvantage. Okay.
I'll put another question. By never do a contract by yourself, does it mean that we should engage a lawyer to write it up for us?
I would say for your first standard agreements, your broad-based agreements, you could never, I mean, you're in consulting. So there are some standard things that go into such a contract. So you can have a lawyer draw that up. I'm not going to advise you to go to a lawyer every time you want to do a contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to be honest with you, if you have a retainership and you're very busy in consulting, always run your contract by your lawyer. Trust me. Always run it by a lawyer. But it's not a lawyer that you're engaging every time. So you have a retainership. And I understand where you're coming from. When you're just starting out, can you afford a retainership? Not necessarily. So if you can have one contract done up, and then you make sure that all the nuances for that particular project is captured in every single contract, I think you'll be okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's go to Vivian. Madam Vivian in Kenya. Vivian,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, and our facilitator. Well, I have learned a lot today. First, that consultancy is about problem solving, and it has got different scopes, and these scopes can only be well defined if we understand the root cause of the problem and if we understand the needs and the aspirations of our client. And this understanding is very key because it is based on the needs and aspirations that we are able and scope, understanding of the scope, that we are able to define even our budget for the consultancy. And also that you told us that for those who are starting, that we don't have to be too selective, but at the same time, we should not compromise our credibility. And that different consultancy assignments end at different stages. So that scope should be well defined before engagement, and that don't engage a client before you understand the desires, the needs, and the aspirations of that client.
Okay.
I have a case I wanted to share.
Okay.
I don't know, I can share it later on, but it's something I went through when I did my very first bidding. And then somebody known to me, not very well known, but I got to know that there was a consultancy. And then I knew somebody who was in that organization. I called him, I asked him, I can do this. He told me, just apply. I went ahead and asked, what is your budget? He told me the budget. So I applied with confidence, and I did a very good application. And it went so fast, in 2 days' time, they were confirming that they had picked me. Of course, there was no interview. And then they later on told me, but we only have this amount for this assignment. Then I quickly say that we can discuss, and then we came and had a meeting informally. In fact, at my home, this person sent someone to my home. I didn't know what they were trying to do, but then I later realized when I missed the opportunity what they were trying to do. So I really wanted to understand. I missed the opportunity because I was not able to understand their needs, not needs in terms of formally, but they had other needs that were hidden in the process. They wanted us to talk about what I am receiving and what they are getting back after that.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Very insightful. Let's go to Jennifer. Jennifer, are you there? Jennifer, Madam Jennifer from Ghana, are you there? Jennifer, are you there? Feedback from Jennifer. Mr. Ahmed, let's have your feedback. Mr. Ahmed. Shoaib Ahmed, yes, please.
Thank you very much, Professor. Although I joined in late, but I was able to learn a whole lot. The one that stuck with me the most is the DNA analysis. See, all along, I've been doing a whole lot of things in this space, but I didn't actually know that it was what I see as the heart of consulting generally. Another thing that resonates well with me is the fusion of the diagnosis of the problem on ground, the client's needs, and the solution I'm about to proffer to the problem. And another takeaway is this, that for every phase of what I'm doing, I'm supposed to be paid. There is a phase that I was doing for free before, but now I know it must be commercialized. It's from the commercialization of this knowledge that I'll be motivated and happy to provide solution to problems, but though in a very sustainable way. Thank you very much for the impact, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Anyone else? Jennifer, is Jennifer there?
Yeah.
Joseph.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, Doc, I want to ask a question.
Please go ahead.
Is it necessary? All contracts should be through the lawyer, or we should have a standby lawyer always if you have a big contract?
Okay, you know what? I would say every contract should be seen by a lawyer. So if you can pass the cost on to the client, or you can build in the cost into your budgeting, then that's fine. It's just to protect yourself. Because if there are issues, it is the contract anybody will look at. You understand? But if you are comfortable with doing assignments and your contract and there are no problems, then that's fine. But professionally, I would advise you, let there be that legal due diligence for every assignment that you do. Okay?
And Doc, another thing, how about the insurance? Insurance, is
Insurance
that
as well, yeah. I mean,
it's necessary, yeah?
Depending
Always.
on the industry. You are in the building industry, contracting industry, you need insurance, yeah. For
Okay.
consultants, we need what we call professional indemnity insurance. So as a
Okay, sir.
consultant, you need professional indemnity insurance, okay?
Okay, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Jennifer, are you there? Anne, we got Anne. Anne is our project manager in Ghana. So some of you might have spoken to Anne. Anne, you want to say a word? Anne? Anne, she's not there. All right, I believe we've covered everyone. I think Mr. Adeoti.
Yes.
Okay, Han, yeah, you want to say something? Thank you for joining.
I just want to congratulate everyone for taking this step. So everybody from Ghana, Nigeria, everywhere. So hopefully, I'm very sure that at the end of the day, even while this training is ongoing, we are going to get some really good testimonials from every participant about how they started their consultancy and how they are getting clients and everything. We want to hear all testimonials from every participant. That's how we know that this was very, very beneficial for everyone.
All
so
right,
thank you all, and congratulations for taking this step.
All right, thank you. That's Han, our project manager from Ghana, graciously joining the training. Thank you, Han. All right, thank you so much, everyone. I'm signing off now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If there's any discussion, any question, any comments, please put it in the group chat. Let's make the group chat more interactive now. So it's not just, we're not just interacting only on Saturdays. So your comments, your feedback, your questions, please put in the group chat so that we can continue the learning, even offline on the WhatsApp group. All right? Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'm signing out now. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Prof.
Please,
Bye.
let's drop something on the WhatsApp. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Bye.